Howdy everybody. When I started shopping for a brand new truck, I had three trucks in mind in the midsize segment, which was the Ford Ranger Raptor, the Chevy Colorado ZR2, and the Toyota Tacoma TRD Pro. This is something that seems to be pretty common in the truck community, and I wanted to give you my insight into why I picked a Ford Ranger Raptor to maybe help your choice while you're looking through to buy a new vehicle, or to reassure your choice into getting the Ford Ranger Raptor. Now, just to be clear, I'm not here to bash the other two trucks. I think they're both really good trucks. They just didn't fit what I wanted when I was looking. And even at the end of the video, I'll give you some reasoning behind which truck I think would be best for you based on what you want and maybe where you live at in the country. So when I began my research, I gave all these trucks a fair shake. I test drove all three trucks. I deep dove on all the forums, checking things out if there's problems, things to look for, what aftermarket equipment's out there. I've gone through the entire ringer on all three of these trucks, and I think I have a good basis of my opinion. I will admit, if you see my other videos, I am biased. I have Ford hats and Ford shirts. I have had F-150 Raptors. I've had Bronco Raptors. I have had a lot of Fords in my life, but I went unbiased into this because there's a lot of competition in the midsize market. The Chevy Colorado has always piqued my interest. Chevy drive chains are usually very solid, pretty rock solid. And Toyotas, they have an entire group of people that fanboy over them. And there's a reason. They're reliable. There's a ton of market out there for them, a lot of aftermarket third-party support. So I wanted to give everything a fair shake. So in this video, we're gonna go through all of that, what I went through, my decision-making process, and what my overall thoughts are and outcomes of what I chose. Also, by the end of the video, I'll give you my opinion on if I made a bad choice in the Ranger Raptor and if I would have went with another truck, and maybe even rank the three to let you know what I think of all three of them. So first, let's discuss what probably is the easiest thing for me to discuss, which is the powertrain options among the three trucks. Even the Toyota fanboys and the Chevy fanboys, you have to admit, Ford kind of has it here with the twin turbo V6. Unlike the competitors out in the market in the performance line of midsize trucks, Ford decided to put the 3-liter twin turbo V6, which is also in the Bronco Raptor and in the Ford Explorer ST. That 3-liter twin turbo V6 puts out 405 horsepower and around a 450 foot-pounds torque stock. That's not tuned, that's stock. With the tune, you can add about 30 more horsepower and another 30-40 foot-pound torque, which puts it up there with the full-size F-150 Raptor in terms of performance, which is absolutely insane. Just to be clear, none of these engines are going to put you like back in your seat like you're driving a Hellcat or anything like that. It's not a TRX or anything like that. It's not a Raptor R, but the Ranger Raptor, after test driving all of them, the Ranger Raptor is the only one that kind of gives you that sports car kind of pushback. The Toyota does a little bit because it has the hybrid train torque, but I think the Ford feels more like a sportier drivetrain, if I had to say it. Very much more enjoy it, and I think it's more in tune with straight line performance. Speaking of the Tacoma TRD Pro, it comes with a 2.4-liter iForce Max engine, which is a hybrid engine platform that they put on their Tacomas. I am not a hybrid hater. I think Toyota does have it right that hybrids are probably the future of the industry in commuter cars, probably even sports cars. Porsche is starting to put hybrid engines in their sports cars. I'm not a hybrid hater, but I'm not willing to give up the cylinders yet. I think it has its place, the hybrid engine. It feels good, it feels smooth. Toyota's ahead of the game when it comes into mass-produced hybrid engines, but it's slow. It's a slow engine. It doesn't really get up to speed. And when you're doing an off-road, high-performance, like dune racing kind of truck, you kind of need that oomph. It feels fine. It feels smooth. There's nothing wrong with it. There's been some hybrid engine issues on the Tundras, but I haven't really heard much on the Tacomas. I don't worry so much about reliability. It's really just more performance. If I'm going to weigh everything equally, And all these engines work well. They go to full warranty. They do 200, 300,000 miles. I feel like out of all these drivetrains, the Tacoma's probably my least favorite, to be quite honest with you. And the ZR2 powertrain is something I just wasn't in love with either. It's a 2.7 liter. It's the least amount of horsepower out of all three drivetrains. It feels fine off of the line, but getting up to speed, especially on the interstate, it feels like a truck. It feels slow. It kind of reminds me of the previous generation Tacoma with a naturally aspirated V6. It's just kind of feels like a dog, kind of feels slow. It feels truckish compared to the other two, which there's nothing wrong with. Trucks historically weren't sports cars, and I don't want to compare it to that, but when you're comparing it to a twin turbo V6, which is very high revving, it's very snappy, it gets you off the line, and the hybrid that has a lot of torque on the low end to get you up to speed, the ZR2 feels a little sluggish. It's perfectly fine off-road, going slow. It's really smooth off-road. You can really feather the throttle, get over rocks and everything like that. It's just interstate speeds, getting up on highways, trying to race somebody at a stoplight, you're not going anywhere anytime fast. There's one more aspect of performance I want to talk about, which is the shock systems on each of these trucks. It's at the forefront of all of their marketing. It's a big talking point for all three of these trucks, so I think it's worth addressing as well when we talk about performance. I want to address up front, I think Ford still has the advantage here. They have the Fox live valve shocks as opposed to the Toyota's TRD Tune Fox non-live valve shocks that have to do with manual adjustments, and then the DSV Multimatic shocks on the Chevy Colorado. Ford live valve allows for live actuation and changes within the bypass structure of the shocks to actively read the terrain that you're riding on, which works phenomenally. They've been doing it on the F-150 Raptors for years now. They've moved it over and put it on the Ranger Raptor, and it works flawlessly. Even though I've said in previous videos that the Ranger Raptor doesn't ride as smooth as the F-150 Raptor, probably because of the shorter wheelbase and just the frame in general, it still drives very, very smooth, especially in comparison to the other trucks. When I test drove the Tacoma, I feel the Tacoma was a little more floaty. It was still a very nice driving suspension setup. I just felt it was a little boatier, and then off-road, it just felt like it was not always performing the way I expected it to. It bounced around a little bit. When I would go through something that would kind of make the truck jitter a little bit, it seemed to not be planted very well, which could be because I'm just used to live valve shocks. It still performed well. I don't want to give it any hate. It's a very high-end truck with a very high-end suspension setup. But when I'm comparing apples to apples, I think the Tacoma the suspension doesn't live up to the live valve. For the Colorado Multimatic suspension, I think it performed really well. I think it's the boatiest out of the three. It's the cushiest kind of old man land yacht vibe out of the three, which is fine. I like it. When you hit the acceleration, it makes you feel like you're going fast because it like picks up the front end because it's kind of squishy. But I would say it's probably the most comfortable during rock crawling. And you'll see a trend here. I think the ZR2 is better built for that slow rock crawling type of off-roading as opposed to the other two trucks, which are high speed, like sand running. But the ZR2 Multimatics did impress me quite a bit. It's just not really what I want and what I'm into, which is high speed off-roading. Next, I want to go through the interiors, that's the place you sit at the most and that you'll see the most. And I think this is really the hardest one to judge out of all the topics we're going to discuss. So out of all three, I actually think the Ford is the most boring. I don't think it has anything going for it that's over the top. It's the safest of the three by far. It has the little accents of the orange bits of the interior. The seats, I don't love the seats, to be honest with you. I think the leather quality is pretty poor. I don't know if it's real leather or if it's like a marine leather, but it's really dry. It's not very supple compared to some of the other Raptor models out there. And I just wasn't overall impressed with the seats. The truck is pretty much black on black on black on orange. There's not a lot of color in it. There's not a lot of pop. It has a vertical screen, which is the only one of the trucks with a vertical screen, which I don't like. I don't like the vertical screen. It's not my vibe. It makes doing certain tasks a little bit more annoying. I wish I could just have a horizontal screen like the other two trucks, to be quite honest with you. Something to think about when you're looking at these trucks though, I myself do not have kids. I do not have child seats in the back. I think the Ford probably has the most room in the back compared to the other two. I definitely know it has more than TRD Pro, which we'll talk about. I think it's about the same as the ZR2, maybe a little bit more, but it's probably the better option if you have kids and you still want to keep a mid-sized truck. I would go for the Ford or the Chevy. So I'm going to make a group of you out there that are watching this, if you're into this certain brand of truck, very happy by saying this. I think my favorite interior out of all three of these trucks was the TRD Pro, Toyota. I really like their new design language that they have. The old Toyotas were so boring, just so plain, but I really like the new design language that they have for the TRD Pro Tacomas. That has a much larger screen, which is really beautiful. It's a really nice looking screen. The steering wheel feels good. The seats feel good. But let's talk about the seats. Someone at Toyota decided that it was a really smart move to put a gigantic gimmick in the Tacoma TRD Pro. I get what they're trying to do. I'm all for trying to be innovative, but it really takes up a lot of room in the back seats. You can go watch reviews on this truck. People try to be nice about it. There is no room back there. Absolutely no room. If you have kids and you need to put a child seat back there, I don't think this is even an option. I think you'd probably need to go the Trail Hunter or another variant of the Tacoma if you want to do this. But I don't know what they were thinking. I'm being rude. I know what they're thinking. They're trying to innovate, trying to do something cool. I just don't think it worked out the way they wanted it to. Outside of the seats, like I said, the Tacoma interior is my favorite out of all three of these. Felt bigger inside. It felt more open. It's new age. I think it will age well, to be quite honest with you. I think the Ford will age well, and I think the Tacoma will age well. But I think the Tacoma overall is just a cool look. It's more with the times. It's more up to date. It has a lot more tech, at least like with the bigger screen and stuff like that. So Tacoma, hands down, my favorite interior out of the three. And the last, which is probably my least favorite interior out of the three, is going to be the ZR2. And it's not so much the way it's designed or laid out, it's material choices. This is pretty normal for Chevy, even though Chevy's come a long way with their interior design over the years. A couple of years ago, I would not even touch a Chevy because of the interior. I could not get over their interiors, especially those Silverados. Like, man, they were rough. But the new ZR2 is actually a nice place to be. Some of the color choices are interesting. It's like tan, and then lime green, and then fake camo. I don't know what they're going on with that, but it's all fine. It works well in person when you're sitting in there. But it's like having a rusty car with a crap paint job. Like, it looks really good from 30 feet, but when you sit in it and kind of look at everything and look at the fit and finish, look at some of the material choices, it just doesn't hold up, in my opinion. I know I'm being kind of nitpicky here, but when you sit in it, just some of the glossy parts, some of the choices, the creaks and the cracks, and things don't really feel that solid. I would argue the Toyota kind of felt kind of creaky and cracky as well. The Ford is actually really sturdy, like nothing creaks and cracks in that. But anyways, back to the ZR2. I just feel like when you sit in there on initial impression, you're like, man, this is really impressive. It looks really nice. But as you sit there and look at it a little bit closer, it just feels cheaper because it is than the other two trucks, but it doesn't have that premium quality you're looking for in a truck that costs $50,000 plus. So the last part here I want to go through is something that talks a little bit more about the intangibles of these trucks. I can go through a spec sheet. We can go talk about powertrain and departure angle and all that crap all day long, right? There's plenty of YouTube videos that do it way better than me. I want to hit the intangibles. Let's talk about the things that look, feel, lifestyle, aesthetic, how those things play, and how these trucks make me feel. At the end of the day, these are all expensive trucks that we don't need. We don't need them. Don't tell my wife that. But we don't need them. So let's talk about why these things would attract us. What about these three trucks would bring us in and how it would fit within our lives? So first of all, let's just go over looks. I am a firm believer that if you go and park your vehicle and you don't want to turn around and look at it while you're going inside to work or to a store, you got the wrong vehicle. I want to turn around and look at it and see how it looks sitting out in the parking lot. I know that may be lame. I don't know. I don't think I'm the only one that feels that way, but you got to enjoy the way your truck looks or your vehicle looks if you're into these kind of things. So out of all three of them, we're going to start off with the Ford. It's the most boring design. And I talked about it in previous videos. It's the safest of the three. It's a Ranger with wider hips, wider tail end, a couple changes here and there to make it look a little bit tougher, a little bit thicker, but it's the safest of the three. And I kind of like that. I kind of like it doesn't look like a racer boy truck. It's tame. It's more of a blank slate, in my opinion. There's more to work off of if people support it with parts, of course, but I think it's a better starting point than the other two trucks. The other two trucks have very loud aesthetics, a lot of sharp angles. The Ford is a little more rounded, a little softer. I joked around in one of my videos, it kind of looks like the Angry Frog meme or a Guppy, but I think there's a lot to work with. And I think as these continue to be sold and people continue to make more things for them, there's going to be some really cool builds out there because it's more of a blank slate. Next, let's talk about the Tacoma. I like the design of the Tacoma. I really do. I like the new TRD Pro design. I like the new Trail Hunter design, and even just the TRD off-road design, which is the lowest level of the hybrid powertrain. I like the way they all look. I think Toyota, for some reason, made them difficult to mod because they have the integrated bumper now, which a lot of trucks are doing, but it makes you have to cut out body panels to fit in bumpers and stuff like that. It's also a lot to repair if you get into an accident. If you know Mike from Last Line of Defense, he got into a little bit of a fender bender earlier in the year, and it was a big repair bill for him to go get that fixed, which, I mean, that's a lot of vehicles nowadays, to be completely honest, but it's just a part of the design that is interesting to me. One of the draws for Tacoma, which this may appeal to a lot of people, it's kind of like the Jeep community. Everything is made for the Tacoma. It's like the iPhone of trucks, of mid-sized trucks, right? Everyone makes stuff for it. Every third party supports it. If you don't support Toyota or Tacomas or Tundras somehow and you're in the off-road community, you're not going to be in business for very long. It's just how it is. So if you really like modding and tweaking and having availability to parts, the Tacoma may be your best option, and that's a part of the lifestyle, right? That's a part of the vibe, for lack of a better term, of that Tacoma draw. Like, I myself am not an iPhone user, but I get the draw because everything is made for the iPhone. I like Toyotas. I just haven't pulled the trigger on one. I did have a 2008 Tundra a long time ago, but I just haven't pulled the trigger on any of the new ones yet. But I will say that lifestyle has a draw to it, that they make everything for these trucks. But I will admit there's a downside to that, and everybody's kind of made them boring. Everybody builds a Tacoma. You go to Overland Expo, holy shit, there's 1,000. It's just Tacoma Expo. That's all it is. Everybody has a Tacoma build. Everybody has a Tundra build, but it's because they're easy to build. Everybody makes parts for them. They want to showcase the parts so they can sell them. I get it. It's a business. You got to make money. I get it. But it's not unique anymore. And if you don't care about any of that, that's fine. But like, I kind of like the fact that the ZR2 and the Ranger Raptor are a little more unique. Now moving on to the ZR2, I think the ZR2 is a really cool looking truck. I think it's probably the coolest looking one out of the three. I really like the design language from front to back. The front end looks really good, the side looks really good, and the rear looks really good on it. There's just not a lot out there for it. And I think that there will be things come out in the market. It kind of struggles from the same thing Ranger Raptor does, is that there's just not as big of a market for them. They don't produce as many as the Tacomas, so they make as much stuff. But you have some creators out there, like shout out Downtime Lost. I watch his YouTube channel a lot, not because I'm into trucks, but he just seems like a cool, entertaining guy. And I like to see someone's out there trying to push the limit on building out a vehicle not a lot of people build, which on the ZR2 platform. He's had some issues with it. Most recently, he's had a lot of brake issues with it, which you can go check out his channel to hear all about that. He's being a good trooper through all of it. I think it's kind of beating him down a little bit, but he's coming on the other side of it. His truck's working again. He's back off road. But anyways, I think the ZR2 is the coolest looking one out there. I think it's going to have the least amount of options out of all three of these trucks. So if you're okay rocking stock, maybe just putting 35s on it and just leaving it alone, ZR2 I think is a great option for you, because I think it's an excellent looking truck. So let's talk price. Pricing's pretty comparable on all these. Yes, I know mid-size trucks have gotten insane in pricing. I get it. Let's put that aside just for a second. The ZR2 is the cheapest at $50,000, around $50,000, depending on how you outfit it. You can go all the way up to in the 60s if you get the ZR2 Bison Edition, which to me is just really you putting factory 35s on it. Hey, but to each his own. It looks rad. If you got the money, spend it. Next is going to be the Ford Ranger Raptor, which is usually around 58, but Ford dealers suck. They suck, and they gouge people, and they're harder to find. I think it's starting to change. It seems like the market's getting pushed with more Ranger Raptors now, or at least people aren't buying them because of the economy right now. But I've seen markups from 5,000 to 10,000 still on Ranger Raptors from 58,000, which puts them into the mid 60s. The TRD starts at like 67, I think now, or maybe 68. That's a lot, especially for a Tacoma, right? Which is very surprising to me. I expected Ford to be the most expensive. And the problem with Tacoma is some of the Toyota dealerships, at least around me here in Colorado, they're just as greedy as the Ford dealerships now. I see them marking them up 5,000, 10,000, which puts them in the 70s, which is like Tundra territory, TRD Tundra territory, and Ford Raptor, F-150 Raptor territory, which is insane to me. But if we weigh everything equally, let's go through who I think each one of these trucks is good for. Let's start with the Ranger Raptor that I picked overall. For me, I like the high-speed off-roading. I've had the full-size F-150 Raptors. They were too big for what I want, especially here in Colorado. It's a good-sized truck. It has plenty of power, and it's sportier, and that's what I wanted. I wanted a little bit more on-street performance, a little more off-road, high-speed performance, and it being able to fit on trails. It hits all the marks for me. It turns in like a sports car. It feels like a rally car on back dirt roads. Like it just, you can drift it around corners. You know where it's going to go. Like you can just point the nose in and it's great. Perfect truck for me. I don't think it's suited for people that only rock crawl, like really rock crawl. I think the ZR2 is a much better truck for that. I think the ZR2 is by far, out of these three, the best suited for slow rock crawling off-road. It's more comfortable. It seems more capable. It's easier to feather the throttle through some of the more technical stuff, especially when you put 35s on it. I think it's just a better overall truck for the slow stuff. The Tacoma, I feel, is someone that is more lifestyle driven, if that makes sense. And I don't mean that in like a negative sense. I think it's better suited for people that want to mod and add and tweak and tinker and mess with their truck a lot, because there's going to be a lot of parts out there in the market. And I think it's the middle ground for all three of these trucks. I think performance side, Ford is on the extreme. I think off like slow rock crawling performance is going to be the ZR2. I think the Tacoma is really in the middle, and it's the more lifestyle friendly truck of the three. So I think if you're into going to meetups, if you're into tinkering and working on your truck, I think the Tacoma is probably the best bet. So I just want to end this video and say, this is clearly my opinion. I'm clearly biased because I've owned a lot of Fords in the past. I swear I was open to all three of these trucks, but at the end of the day, I think the Ford is truly the best option for me out of these three. And if I could do it all over again, I would absolutely pick the Ford Ranger Raptor up again. If you can get it for MSRP, I think you go Ford Ranger Raptor all day. If you can't, I would probably go ZR2. To be honest with you, I think price and performance is better on that. The Tacoma's a hard justification for me. The seats will hurt you if you're a parent. It's the most expensive out of the three, and I think it just suffers from least performance in certain sections that I would expect. Looks cool, interior's great. It's just not for me. Anyways, let me know in the comments below what you would pick. Let me know how dumb I am for what I've chosen. Don't bash me too much. I like the Tacomas, I swear. I like the ZR2s, I swear. I just wanted to have a conversation of why I picked what I picked. So anyways, like and subscribe if you like these kind of videos. If you want some more in-depth analysis on a couple of things I've done to my truck, I have a couple other videos to go check out. All right, until the next time, peace.